Sir, the president, when he talked about the State of the Nation address a few weeks ago, he said that there are still a number of external factors. You mentioned Ukraine a while ago as one of those external factors that had an impact. What else are you looking at? Maybe outside the Philippines first, that you think could have like an impact on shipping and logistics here in the Philippines?
Well, of course, there's still usually the price of fuel. That's still a factor. Yeah. Although there are international pricing that happens because we're international. But then again, locally, we need support. We need support vessels to help us, like tugboats, crew boats. And they consume fuel, so that adds on fuel as well. Our domestic shipping market is also getting hit. I think it needs a bit of a push, not only in terms of financial but also on some of the regulatory things, because as you well know, we're 7,100 islands. We need to use the sea, being able to cross borders and bring trade around. China, the issue with China is still very, very important. The economy of China needs to, it's very slow as well, because the markets where they sell is also very slow. I'm not an economist, but you know how it is.
Sure.
Right now we're veering over. Our relationship, I think, is veering towards the U.S., and the U.S. is not also doing very good as of the moment.
Yeah.
It is an export market. We would like them to pick up. We'd like them to pick up so that we can get our exporters to also sell their products. And the more we export, the more we import, the better for the Filipino people.
Are you worried about what's going on in the West Philippine Sea? I mean, how significant is that to your business? Not just the actual potential conflict itself, but just even the military exercises. Right? Does that worry you at all, or that?
Well, no. I don't think it's. We're businessmen. Shipping lines or ship owners are basically businessmen, and we don't want conflict in any way.
Sure.
We don't want conflict in any way. That's the farthest thing in our minds, if that happens. But eventually that happens, it's going to be bad for us, because the West Philippine Sea is where a lot of ships ply, or that's where we move. We can't go around. Go through the east, that's very far. How can you have access to Manila? You have to go down Bicol and cross. So right now, as far as that is concerned, sure, we're praying that it doesn't happen. I don't think we can see something erupting in the near term. I guess. End of the day, it's a major superpower, so we'll decide this in the end.
But right now, you're not affected. There's no harassment of private vessels in the.
No. Okay. We're not feeling that. We're not feeling that.
What about the domestic issues? There are a number of things going on. Of course, we ratified RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. EU is talking about maybe negotiating a free trade with the Philippines. Is that going to help your industry, or
that's very good
what will
news.
Be the impact?
That will be very good news. Means there's going to be more trade. So there's more trade, the more we carry.
Right.
So that's very much welcome, and I guess that puts us that puts us in the future trading partners, or ease of trading.
Right.
Helps the country. So. Right. We buy more, we sell more, then we carry more. You see, or 90% of everything clings. So we need that. We need that actually to boost our rates. But one concern that we have now, and which is surprisingly past couple of weeks has been a very hot topic, is the reclamation.
Okay.
You see,
that's interesting that it also affects you. Well,
yes.
In hindsight, of course it does, because you pass through that area, right?
Yeah, we pass through that area, and it's on the western side. And right now, what's happening is that like if you go to big chain of hotels right there in Ronas Boulevard.
Yeah,
all of a
Sofitel.
sudden you go there, Sofitel, you go to Seascape, and,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you see it's no longer the sea, you know,
Yeah.
it's land.
It's land, yeah.
And then, from an ordinary layman, you think there's nothing really happening that's bad out there. It's supposed to. But, no, hindi ba? We're not against progress. If it's something that needs to be done, then,
Sure.
and if it'll help the economy, sure, go for it. But I think there needs to be careful planning because you have two ports. You have the South Harbor or Asian terminals or South Harbor, as you call it, or the Port of Manila.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have MICT. Right now, what we're seeing is that the ports are going to be affected in some way because as you recover land, eventually the usual freeway or the usual way where you go and dock your ships will be affected. So what does it mean? You have to either turn around or you go through a narrow channel because both parts have already
Been reclaimed or
been
they're
reclaimed
affected by the reclamation.
already affected by the reclamation. What does this mean? This will mean that our ships will now have to be boarded by pilots. You see,
I see.
pilotage is mandatory in the Philippines, and that's for safety because you have to protect the terminal. It has to be driven or parang kotse.
Right.
Has to be driven by an
Someone has to park it.
Kahit nakapikit si mata niya
Yeah.
kaya niyang iparada yung barko. Pero
Yeah.
so since there's going to be a channel, it's going to be more expensive for ships to go, to dock.
So again, added cost.
And then there are anchorage areas because nagkakaroon ka na ng reclamation in a certain area. It's going to be pushed back. What does it mean? It means the doctors, you have a quarantine doctor who clears the vessel before it arrives because it's coming from another country. The quarantine doctors need to check if everybody's okay and not carrying any disease or whatever. Diba? So they do that. And let the pilots go on board. So kung dati, isang oras to get to
Because you're farther away now. Because,
farther away,
yeah.
3 hours away. So there's going to be additional cost.
Yeah.
There's going to be additional cost involved.
Has there been any dialogue or attempt to reach out to the shipping and logistics industry to make sure that the reclamations are well designed so that it's optimal?
Unfortunately not. I think not in the previous administration, but in the administration previous to that, during the time of
Aquino?
GM Boy Santa Ana at that time. Yeah.
Okay.
There was some dialogue, there
Okay.
was some dialogue, but we only heard of only one consultation that we had concerning one project.
Okay.
But then apparently
But now
there are
there's
about
many. There's several.
24, I guess, or 24 ba or 26 already.
There's
there.
quite a few,
But-
yeah.
But we were never consulted.
Wow.
So we don't know. And now all of these things are happening. So we were just waiting for time, making sure that we have the right numbers or the right costing exercise
Yeah.
to do. To then eventually approach government and tell them, look, it's going to affect us this way. Can we do a dialogue? Can we do something about
At least the way they
placement?
design it, right?
Yeah, the way to design. Can we do
Yeah.
it shorter as long
Yeah.
as? And I think we have to get the terminals on board as well on this one because what's going to happen here is that the Philippines or Manila ports becomes a little bit more expensive for a shipping line to call on because of this added cost. And when shipping lines do their budget, they usually do their budgets at the end of the year. But now this is going to happen in the middle, and peak season is going to come. So
Right. I said the Burr months. No? When you talk the term, when you refer to the terminals, you're talking to MICT and ATI, right?
yes, we should be speaking to them and ask them, look, what do you think? Because we need their opinion. They're also the terminals going to affect them. So
Right.
we have to share information
Right.
how best to handle this.
Do you guys have a position paper, or maybe have you made an attempt to reach out
None
I
yet.
think the DNR secretary said she was going to look at it, but purely on an environmental
Yes.
viewpoint. But no one's thought about maybe from a transportation or logistics standpoint.
Not yet, and that's our homework now.
Yeah.
Try to get in there. Try to give our opinion on what's the effect on logistics or what's the effect on shipping.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hope that hopefully we get to be heard. Because definitely there's going to be an effect on our part. Expenses will shoot up because why at our expense or why at the people's expense?
Sure.
So,
Anything else? So maybe on the part about ease of doing business, is there anything else on that front that should be addressed?
I'm not so sure how the procurement, or sorry, not the procurement, but how to the process of coming up with such a something like a permit as far as the PRA is concerned. But I guess there's going to be somebody who's going to, or some government agency will take a look. Like you mentioned, the DNR wants to get in there. You have Senator Cynthia Villar has always had that concern the longest time.
She's been always against reclamation.
Yeah. So tingin ko lalabas yan. So, and I'm sure usually what happens at Senate will say, are there anybody else who are affected here? So then that's the time you start. Or you can write them a position paper. Hey, we heard you're talking about this. Maybe can we be heard? We have our concerns.
What was that facility that was developed in Cavite? I think that was where they were using it to store containers. That was a new thing before the pandemic, right?
Oh, that's the Cavite gate. That's the Cavite gateway.
Because I think you're talking about how that helps also decongest.
Oh yeah,
the port area, right?
Yeah, that'll help.
But I guess the point
that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you pointed it out.
Because with the reclamation,
correct. Well, now I have to, maybe what will happen now, instead of them going coastal, they might have to
go around
out in the open sea before. But that's a good. I'll check on that as to how things are happening with that one. But for sure that will be affected as well.